Today I'm here with Jean Chatzky. She's a financial guru and co-founder of hermoney.com. Jean, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
In your book, you talk about concerns that women have around their finances. Can you describe what they are?
Sure. So in reporting this new book, which is called Women with Money, I interviewed hundreds of women, and what surprised me most was that the things we want are really consistent. Safety, security, stability, savings. And when we think about savings, we're not thinking about money in the markets. We're actually thinking about cash in the bank. And for many women, we need to make sure that we have all of these things before we can focus on checking off the other items on our list, which is okay, except if it prevents you from putting the money that you need to work in the markets that will enable you to not only keep pace with taxes and inflation, but just stay ahead of taxes and inflation.
You spend a lot of time talking about what women really need is security, especially security around money. Can you tell us how we get secure so that we feel like we have enough money?
I think this concept of what's enough in some ways is different for people, but we do have some good benchmarks that we use to figure out if we've got enough to continue to live the way that we're living once we get to retirement. And there's a series of them. By the time that you are 30, you should have 1 time your income put away. By the time you're 40, 3 times, 50, 6 times, 60, 8 times, and by the time that you retire, 10 times your earnings put away that will last you for the next 30 years, the rest of your life. It also, though, helps to know how you're planning on living. I mean, exercises like running financial calculators, sitting down with a financial advisor, even if you don't want to have an ongoing relationship, but just to have a physical and understand if you're doing okay can really, really help. I know that there are some women who don't like the numbers. There are some men who don't like the numbers, but I find the numbers to be very reassuring when you're trying to figure out if you are building this stable cushion.
Right. That's good advice. And what if you're in a relationship and your partner or spouse has a different view or a different style when it comes to spending or savings? Any advice for that?
Yeah, so I would say 2 things. Step back from the numbers in that case and focus on what you're actually trying to achieve. If you can get your partner in sync with, in 2 years we want to buy a second home, and by the time we're 62 we want to pay off the mortgage, and we want to put away enough to pay for at least this much of college for our kids. If you can get to some real tangible goals, then you can put the numbers together to get you there. But I would also say give each other a little bit of space, because expecting somebody with a very different style and a very different history than you to come along and treat money the same way that you do is a little too much. It just doesn't really happen in real life. So give yourself a separate stash, give your partner a separate stash, and respect each other to know that with that money you can do what you want.
Oh, that's great advice. What is the biggest, if there's one, I know you've talked to hundreds and hundreds of women as you have been writing your books and really diving deep into our relationship with money. What is the biggest pitfall, would you say, women make? Is there one when it comes to their relationship with money?
Not taking enough risk, and I know it. I know that we get a bad rap where risk is concerned, and I keep waiting for studies to show us that we're stepping up to take more risk, and it's happening slowly. But we often do keep too much in savings, in safety, in the bank, where it's not working hard enough for us, when we should be investing that money for our future. Fidelity just did a study where they looked at the amount that women keep in the bank and found on average we've got an extra $20,000 there beyond our emergency cushions that we could be putting to work, and many of us just aren't aren't doing that. So I would say figure out if you're taking the amount of risk necessary to get you where you need to go in terms of your life plan. And if you're not, figure out what you have to do to step it up a bit.
Is there any advice you can give to an emotional spender? You know, I know there's a lot of advice for a lot of different emotional triggers, and I think spending is one of them.
Oh, no, without a question, and I'm very guilty of this myself.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I do, when I'm having a bad day, going out and shopping sometimes does make me feel better. I have an episode of my podcast, which is called Her Money, where I interviewed a behavioral economist named Sarah Newcomb, and she was brilliant on this subject of behavioral spending and emotional spending. So maybe give that a listen. But if you can get yourself to take a breather, I find that helps a lot. And it doesn't have to be a long breather, 24 hours. If you're shopping online, walk away from the computer, put it in your basket, whatever it is in your basket, it'll still be there 3 days from now, and you can go back and you can buy it then. But just walk away and see if you are still focused on having that thing, whatever it is, 24 hours from now.
You mentioned your podcast. How do we sign up so that we can, I know you have a Facebook group.
We do.
And so how do we stay connected to you, Jean?
Oh, thanks so much. So hermoney.com is my website. If you go there, you can sign up, but you can also just text the word Her Money, one word, to 888-111, and we'll get you on our list.
That's awesome. Everybody, let's text 888-111, Her Money, one word, and we can keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for taking time and giving your advice to us.
My pleasure.